From tying the record for the most Grand Slams in history to becoming the only man to win 10 Australian Open titles, Novak Djokovic is no stranger to breaking records. And now, he's gone ahead and broken a record that no one believed could ever be broken. Djokovic's 378 weeks at the top of the rankings is a new record in tennis. While he'd already gone past Roger Federer's all-time men's record for most weeks at the top, now he's gone ahead and broken the record for most weeks at the top outright of any player even. It's a record previously held by Steffi Graf, who'd remained at the top of the rankings for 377 weeks. And if I'm being honest, when Federer missed out on it in 2018, I really thought that was it. After all, with the kind of domination we saw from Federer, it just felt impossible that someone else would come that close. But a few years later, Djokovic not only broke Roger's record, but he also broke the all-time tennis record by doing the impossible, which is staggering. Imagine being the outright best player in the world for a collective 378 weeks. That's well over 7 years. And he's got absolutely no plans of slowing down. I mean, barring any potential pandemic, which seems to be the only thing in the world that could hinder Djokovic's cold-blooded victory run, there just isn't a player in the tennis world who could challenge the 35-year-old's supremacy. And the way he's going, 8 years at the top might not be a pipe dream. But for now, let's reflect on what he's already achieved with 378 weeks, because that certainly isn't a joke either. It all was made possible thanks to Djokovic's revenge tour in Melbourne. Having been denied the possibility of taking part in the competition last year, the Serbian returned with a vengeance and lost only one set all tournament long. It was such an impressive run from Novak, who wasn't even at his 100%, and yet he just stormed through them all. Absolutely phenomenal. And he seems to be getting better and better with age. And then that led him to soar to the top of the rankings, having ended the year strongly despite not being allowed to participate in 2 Grand Slams, and having been denied the points for winning Wimbledon last year too. Which just goes to show that this kind of domination is outright bizarre. Despite those setbacks, he produced a strong end to the season and could have been in a much better place had he not been upset by Holger Rune in Paris. But not one to dwell over past mistakes, Djokovic came to Melbourne with a bit of an injury scare. However, the way he played throughout the tournament, it would seem like everyone else was carrying an injury. No one had any reply to his domination as he eased through to the final and made very light work of Stefanos Tsitsipas in the final. But to maintain his run at the top, Djokovic will also need to remain consistent in the upcoming weeks, and will also need a bit of luck. That's because he's still waiting for a response from the US authorities on whether he can play the Sunshine Double, which, as I mentioned before, might just be the only thing that stops him in the kind of form he's in. If Djokovic can't play in the US for the Sunshine Double, then there's a big chance that he'll lose his #1 ranking by the end of March. Of course, having lost the semifinal of the Dubai Championships to Daniil Medvedev didn't really help, and with Alcaraz cutting the lead to the top, Djokovic's top position remains in a bit of doubt. Although he's had a slice of luck with Alcaraz pulling out of Acapulco due to a hamstring injury, but the Serbian would want the future in his own hands, so he'll hope to play in Miami and Indian Wells. If that happens, there will be a fair chance for Djokovic to defend his #1 crown at the Sunshine Double, and he'll have plenty of points to gain in the US over the month of March, having missed the chance to do so last year. However, if the decision goes against the Joker, well, then it might be curtains for his bid to extend his lead at the top. Of course, knowing Djokovic, he'll be back to claim his top spot again, but I think it's much easier to defend it than to get there, right? Although it'll still take some doing even if he's allowed to participate. That's because Novak's competition isn't too bad over 3 sets. There's absolutely no doubt over Djokovic's supremacy in 5 sets and the Big Three's supremacy over 5 in general. However, the younger generation has made a lot of strides and they can more than challenge Djokovic over over a best-of-3. That's the reason Djokovic found it hard to get going against Medvedev in Dubai and lost in straights. And there will be a number of other players who will be fancying their chances against Djokovic in Dubai. Alcaraz's situation of participating in the Sunshine Double remains a bit in doubt because of his hamstring injury, but that doesn't discount the likes of Medvedev, Tsitsipas, Zverev, and many others to give Djokovic a hard time in Miami and Indian Wells. That said, you know I'm not the kind of person who'd ever bet against the big three. Those players have won from situations that this younger lot can't even imagine. Either way, it should make for some cracking tennis to follow in the upcoming months, as Djokovic sets off on a journey to a land that no man has ever reached. Yeah, basically Djokovic is making history every week, even if he doesn't play. Wait, how? Well, he's at the top of the pile. He's already made it past Steffi's record of 377 weeks, and now every week that no one else manages to get ahead of him to number 1 is a week that Djokovic does something that no one has ever managed to do. It's just absolutely wild. Luckily for Djokovic, the closest person who could overtake him in the rankings is young Spaniard Alcaraz. And with him injured at least for the next week or so, Djokovic can breathe easy, knowing that he'll be top at least for the next couple of weeks. For instance, Tsitsipas can win the Indian Wells and still not get to the top regardless of what happens with Djokovic. And similar is the case for the other stars down the list. So the question is, just how far can Djokovic go? Sky is truly the limit here. The first obvious goal has to be the 400 mark for sure, and then extending that lead to possibly 8 years and beyond. But Djokovic's best bet has to be doing the bulk of that work this year. I know, we always say that next year it'll be tougher for the big three, now big two, to win everything, and then we all end up eating our words. But I really feel that it's getting harder and harder for these players to dominate the way they did in the last few. I mean, there's so much talent on tour now, they just need to make the next step. And it'll still take some doing if they still fail to take what's waiting for them right there. However, even the most negative of estimates would suggest that Djokovic, at the very least, will make it to 400 weeks at the top. And after that, well, anything and everything is possible. That's all I had on Djokovic breaking the record that many believed would never be broken.
Yeah, it's been a great evening for me tonight. Yesterday, I really had to work hard to get a win. Tonight, I think right from the